Hey guys, this is Richard.
And this is Grant, and this is this. Yeah. Line.
Hey guys, this is Richard.
And this is Grant, and this is It's Not That Bad movie review. I keep on seeing you want to go to the next slide. And you know I'm about to talk.
Sorry, my bad. I'll go ahead and backtrack. But basically, it's a summary or review of movies that we think that
Were
should not have
misrated.
been. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that should not have been chastised.
Well, shouldn't have been chastised. For example, if we see a movie that has been rated lowly, that we believe should be otherwise, like rated highly or at least not that bad. Or even if we see one that's rated really good, then we could do a review on that and say, it's not that good.
Yeah, basically giving an honest score of what we think.
All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and lay out the sequence of events. We'll go through the plot, see what happened, some good parts we liked, some bad parts we didn't like. And just for some context, I have the movie playing in the background so we can go through each one as we go.
Which, by the way, I'm really drawn into because I love the first scene here.
Well, speaking of the first scene, I got 6 pages on the first scene.
Oh, brother. Go ahead.
All right, so the story of Hansel and Gretel plays out as it does. So the father awakens the kids, drags them out in the forest, says, hey, stay the fuck here, I'll be right back. Then pisses off, and the kids do as kids do and don't obey what their parents say and go to a candy house in the forest.
Okay, very
Brief summary of
very
what happened.
brief, but go on. I'm interested.
Yep, so all that happens, and then they see this candy house in the forest, just like in the story. They start immediately tearing at it and eating it, putting this nice old lady out of a home.
Nice old witch.
So they open the door, and we get introduced to the witch.
This reminds me of something out like The Hills of Eyes, is what I'm thinking.
Like an inbred.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Like an inbred.
An inbred witch.
You have the summary here, but I can go ahead and tell you what I'm seeing here.
Well, just to go ahead and pick up for where we're going right now. So essentially, the kids go ahead and they bring themselves into the house. The witch kidnaps them, and Gretel, the girl, gets chained to the floor as she prepares the oven the witch is preparing to roast Hansel alive in. And Hansel, meanwhile, is inside of a bone cage. And during this period, she is force-feeding him, fattening him up so that she can get some good eats.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
But little does the witch know, these two kids are going to go ahead and, well, spoiler alert, roast her alive.
Well, seeing how they're probably seeing that on screen, not that bad of a spoiler alert.
Regardless.
But
Roast-
anyway,
This is the start of their witch hunting career.
yes. But anyway, just to back up a little bit before the witch hunting, burning, and all that, Gretel gets knocked to the floor as the witch bitch slaps her, and she falls straight onto a Deus Ex Machina, a nail sticking out of the floorboards, because apparently craftsmen just sucked back then. And of course, she pries it out, and then when the witch goes to collect Hansel and bring him into the oven for some good old-fashioned roasting, so Gretel goes ahead and automatically picks her locks, because of course every child back in the olden days knew how to do that apparently.
Yeah, I also want to backtrack and say what this does take place. The original story takes place, what, in the 1700s, 1600s, even before that?
So that's the thing, I can't put a time period on it, and I don't think we're supposed to. Because they have guns, and not just guns, functional like rifles, machine guns,
Well, that's
a fully auto crossbow.
Well, that's the funny thing about the movie is it does take an old child's fairy tale or folklore, whatever you want to call it, and basically has its own twist to it,
Yes, yeah, and
which I think is the beauty of it, but which we'll get into a lot of people did not like.
well, I think that's kind of one of the points that they didn't like about it is that it doesn't really have a time period because there's not really a time period it fits into. But what people got to do is kind of suspend the disbelief of saying this is Earth, this is England, whenever the fuck this is. But essentially just kind of pick up where we left off. During that sequence of them burning the witch, we do also get our first look at Hansel and Gretel's magic resistance because the witch fires a spell at them, but obviously it doesn't work.
Which, by the way, I want to add, the original story I saw was in 1812. So we can assume 1800s.
So well before any of these guns and stuff would have been available.
Yes.
So let's just suspend our disbelief then.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Great.
But giving a little history to it, but anyways.
Yeah. So we go ahead and transition to the future, as the kids are now famous for their deeds. And we are in a town where a sheriff is holding a witch hostage, who at least he claims is a witch. Later on, we'll see if she's a witch.
Well, definitely find out.
But already can tell she's a redhead. She has no soul, hence she's a witch. But she is actually a witch.
In a way, but go on.
No, she's literally a good witch.
Yeah, but not as they portray her to be, but...
No,
yeah.
They literally portray her as a witch. She has a wand.
Yeah, but not one of the witches that they go after in the movie.
No, because she fucks... Alright, whatever. Let's just skip that. Come back to it. Anyway, so he has a gathering accusing this lady of being a witch. But then the mayor appears and says, "This is my town, get the fuck out." And then announces that he has hired Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters. Name the title, roll credit sequence.
Roll credits.
Going CinemaSins on this bitch. And then, after that, says, "You don't have any authority. Hansel and Gretel will come out of the woodwork, investigate the woman, say, her teeth are doing fine. This lady does not need a dentist, hence she is no witch."
By the way, I want to add, here's our first scene where they do have these guns you're talking about. Non-1800 standard guns here.
Well, not only not in 1800 standards guns, they're not around today.
Yeah, especially that shotgun type thing he has.
I can't figure out if that's supposed to be a shotgun or a lever-action rifle.
Look, all I'm saying is it's badass.
It is
And
badass.
once again, brings an aspect to the movie where I feel like it makes it interesting, opposed to how people want to look at it in a realistic standpoint. But that's just me.
Yep. But anyway, continuing along the story. So it turns out that the town is missing a shit ton of kids. Mm-hmm. So the mayor has hired Hansel and Gretel to come track down their witch problem and take care of them. So we'll see how that progresses after this scene. But eventually, they go ahead and let the woman go. She gets Hansel's name and creepily says, "Hansel," and then walks away, which is a nice scene. But it sets up the fact that they're definitely going to get, fucking later on.
Oh, yeah.
So after this, the sheriff tries to go ahead and maintain his order, but instead Gretel knocks his ass out with a headbutt. Because, feminism.
Well, badass, number
Yes.
one, but yes. You go ahead and add to it. I was just pointing out this part of the movie right here.
Yes, pointing in audio-only environment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for making that known.
Yes. Anyway, essentially, after this scene, they go ahead and go to the mayor's office, where the mayor explains the situation of the missing kids and pays them half their fee up front as a retainer, and then says, "Hey, we got a witch outside town that nobody really wants to fuck with. Go take care of that, and we'll see what's going on." So as they go and confront this witch, they break into the house, and they see that the witch is a reptile horned type creature, which is weird, because I guess witches all have
They have their own special power.
yeah, they have their own special power
appearance.
and look, but essentially what they kind of drew back to in the beginning when they were saying that the red hair witch wasn't a witch, even though she is that witches become rotten after using dark magic. And because she wasn't rotten, she hasn't used dark magic.
Correct. And as they show in this scene over here,
Yes.
I was just pointing out the scene.
Once again, pointing in a situation that's audio only.
Oh, sorry about that. But here we go. The first of the, I guess I would say second of the witch battles, other than the introduction. They end up capturing her, obviously, which leads to the interrogation scene.
Well, we also get our first look of the broomsticks, which I think are actually the only application of cool broomsticks I've ever seen. Of course, Harry Potter and all that have, oohs and ahs and stuff like that. Pretty cool. But this is, they have speeds and shit like that are kind of cool. But essentially, they chase after the witch and then throws magic at him. But he has the magic protection. And then later on in the witch fight, the witch throws pocket sand at Hansel.
Pocket sand. Classic move.
Throws some nice old-fashioned pocket sand. And essentially, they go ahead, They stab her through the ankle with a crossbow, I believe, and hoist her up into a tree, and then knock her out. And then after knocking her out, they proceed back to the mayor's office. So this is not the scene with the interrogation. So we don't get any interrogation of this one. So essentially, they go back to the mayor's office, and they say, so we went ahead and found this paper inside the house that has details on the blood moon. So I didn't quite get what the blood moon was about. Did you remember?
To my understanding, the blood moon is basically, in a way, some sort of, I don't want to say holiday. That sounds about wrong, but some sort of big event for all
Kind
these
of like
witches.
a solar eclipse.
It basically is what it is, some sort of big event for the witches.
Yeah, like a magical solar eclipse.
Yes. Basically, it's some big gathering, as you'll see later on, where all the witches gather together for this event, and where they will hopefully eat the children that they captured.
Yes. Yep. But then once they go ahead and detail the blood moon and say, hey, we got to look closer into this, the mayor, introduces them to their forest guide. But then they say, oh, it's too late to go today. We can't do that. So let's go ahead and just go to a bar and hang out. And Hansel stabs himself in the leg, showing that he's got the beatus.
The beatus.
He's got the beatus, the 1817 beatus.
Which, I love that little detail in the movie.
So I have a little bit about that detail later on. But he got the fastest acting diabetes ever.
Yeah, I know it don't work like that, but still.
Unless he was held captive for months and months of eating nothing but candy, I'd understand.
Mm-hmm.
But especially since it seems like he got it overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so he has the beatus, blah, blah, blah. The sheriff then hires 2 of his own goons to go into the forest to track down the witch on their own so he can steal the credit for it. And he does not pay them half up front. He says you will only get your money once all the kids are back, and sends them out into the dead of night. And when doing so, they sit around a campfire, and their 2 doggos become quiet as Mariel, our lead protagonist, or antagonist, depending on who you like more.
I would say antagonist, but she... Oh, that's brutal right there. Go ahead, roll that again, but rips them into pieces, basically, and sends one of them back to deliver the message that there is another head honcho in town, I'd say.
Sorta. So how it happens is they go out into the forest, Mariel comes around, forces the 2 dogs to kill 2 of the goons, rips one of their brains out with her bare hand. Was a really cool scene.
Very evident there, yeah.
And then I think there's one more kill, but I didn't really notice. But basically the last one is she has the last guy basically start eating worms. Yes. And then we catch on to him a little bit later on, but that's the last we see of him. Oh, I had a joke in here that I didn't think made the cut, so I didn't bring it up.
What's that?
So I figure I'd put it in here. So... let's see. The goons and some doggos now sit around a fire as a lady with Caesar Milan level dog training skills comes out of the woods. That's all the joke there was.
Oh, brother.
Yep, didn't make the cut.
Cut it.
No, this was going in. I was just so proud of it. It needs to make it in there. Hansel is back in the bar trying to tell a girl about witch piss because witch piss apparently is stinky and has some weird properties. But she doesn't want to fuck him, so she says, oh, I left my phone back at my apartment. I need to get the fuck out of here.
Apartment
yes.
In the 1800s.
I'm glad you hammered down the apartment one instead of the phone.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, so she goes back to her friends. Meanwhile, Hansel joins Gretel and their guide, whose name I did not write down, but I believe is Tom. Seems right.
I would say more like the dude from Project X, if you remember that movie.
The party one?
Yeah, the party one. As he looks over to see the character, which is him.
Wait, who?
The main guy from Project X.
No, that's Benjamin. I'm talking about the forest guy, the old guy.
Ah, I thought you were talking about their guide right here.
No, that's not a guide. The guide is the old guy who will show up soon here. But anyway, yes, I recognize that guy.
Thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Not at all. Anyway, so they go ahead and they try to work out a plan while they're inside the bar. And they have a fan named Ben who runs up and says, hey, I have a scrapbook full of all of your newspaper clippings. I would love for you to sign it. They politely refuse.
AKA Project X. Go on.
Yes, you have recognized one person from one other movie. Oh, by the way, I couldn't spell Hansel, so I just wrote Hawkeye for the entire thing.
Anyways, I'm not going to comment on that. Go on.
I kept on putting it EL instead of LE or whatever way it's actually
It is
spelled.
EL.
I kept on putting LE then. So he's Hawkeye.
That hurts. That hurts me deep.
Well, anyway.
But please continue before I even get onto that subject.
So Benjamin goes ahead and says, hey, I'm a big fan. I would love to get your autograph. They say no. And then he asks a bunch of questions that I would love answers to. But they do not answer him. Essentially, he asks them like, oh, why do you have magic protection? Why did this happen? What happened to your parents? All this stuff. But they just say, fuck you.
Facts. But also, here's a part I was trying to explain before where he goes ahead.
Once again, they are not seeing this in the same time that we are. This is just for your reference. So let me get to it before you talk about it.
Sorry about that.
So next up, the man from Forest is back in the bar. I lied. It's actually up next. So the man from Forest is back in the bar. He is the man who ate worms and goes to warn the entire bar. But then, go ahead, take it from there.
He explodes due to the witch's spell.
Yes.
Thus covering everyone with blood and makes for a pretty brutal scene, in my opinion.
Yep, gets covered in blood, worms, gore, just everything.
But as we see here, 3 of the main witches in the story, including our main antagonist, have a meeting about what shall be done with the witch hunters. Go ahead and take over, please.
Yes, because there's no audio, so you don't know what's going on, do you?
With what?
Like you don't remember a story?
With the meeting?
Yes.
They're talking about... Yeah, they're talking about the situation. Oh, here we go.
No, so they're not talking about the situation. Well, sort of. They say,
Thank you.
Hansel and Gretel are here.
Mm-hmm,
Blah,
which
blah.
is what I said.
Shut up. So essentially, after that, they show a kid bound in ropes, and they say, oh, well, we got a plan now. And then they go ahead and show the remaining kids, so all 11, which we come to learn about later, of the remaining kids who are currently being held inside bone cages, guarded by a troll. And then we cut to them in their secret workshop, or at least the troll in the secret workshop, where they feed a weird worm type creature to the boy, and then they kill him off screen and drink his blood and guts. And what does the blood and guts do to them? What was the reason this young boy had to die?
Now there, you got me. I was going to elaborate on the troll, but I know you're going to be like, no, not yet. Don't elaborate on the troll yet.
Yes, of course, because it's not even close to the time. Anyway, back to the main plot that you seem to have forgotten. The reason why they're kidnapping and killing all these kids is to gain fire immunity. But as it's shown later on, fire's not the only thing that kills them, so this is basically pointless. You know, not going to cut in on that one, not going to talk. This is the movie that you, like, were like, oh, I love this movie.
Oh, I do.
Just not the plot.
Oh, trust me. I'll elaborate later. Like I said, I want to talk about my thing is how well I thought it did opposed to what other people thought.
Yeah,
It
and we'll
did.
get to that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's where I'm going to pop off on everyone to let you know. Let you know now.
So after they kill and eat them, they show that they have fire immunity for all of 20 seconds, and then it starts to actually burn them again. So they discuss, hey, since we have these 11 kids, lucky you. I know the specific ritual where we only need one more, and it will last forever. So they go ahead and do that. However, in the meantime, we cut over to Gretel, who is having a weird-ass dream about her mom, who I wrote as I was watching the movie, who I guarantee is a witch at this point.
Her mom is a witch.
Have you not watched the movie?
Oh, brother, here we go. Yes, I have watched the movie.
Okay, what happened to her mom?
Got hung
Why?
for being a witch.
But what was the reason?
And I was asking the hard questions.
No, it isn't. This is the main turn in the movie.
Why don't you remind me then, please?
Okay, the mom was a great white witch whose powers could not be used against humans, so the dark witch Muriel informed the town that she is a witch, so they burned her.
Now, if we could backtrack, I did explain Her mom was a witch.
But that means that Gretel is also a witch. So what they were trying to do when the father took them to the forest is to protect Gretel, because Gretel is also a white witch whose heart is needed to be consumed during the ritual.
All right. Now, if you're done yelling at me, we can continue.
I hate you so much.
Don't worry about it.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, skipping that, old Firecrotch catches up with Hawkeye as he is shot.
Old Firecrotch.
Yes, that's what I've written down.
Oh, man. Okay. Okay.
So, old Firecrotch catches up with Hawkeye as he's clothes
I'll
shopping.
leave this fucking thing.
And as he is clothes shopping, and immediately outs herself as a witch by asking if he wants to kill all witches, or if he believes there are good witches.
Let me go ahead and answer that for you. There are no good witches.
It's a main
Roll
plot.
credits.
And then, Hansel admits to having the fastest acting case of beatus known to man, and declines Mia's offer as a cure. So she says, "Oh, I can help you with that." And he says, "Nah, fuck you."
I guess that's a quick way of saying it, but yes, he does decline her help.
Yeah, because I'm not going into detail of exactly what the thing was. But, like, he's stabbing a syringe into his leg every 5 seconds.
Which is what everyone does in the present.
Yes. Well, not really, but still. I'll let it pass. But essentially, she's offering him a cure, and he says, "Nah, I prefer this 1871 medicine being stabbed in my leg with the same needle over and over."
1812.
1812.
But yes.
God, I hate you.
Okay, but the real question is, were there really witches back in the 1800s? I'm sorry. I had to ask the hard questions.
So you're saying this is a was it a documentary? Or not a documentary,
Based on a true story.
Based on a true story, yes. Okay.
Okay, here's the part. All right, sorry. I know it's for reference. So they're going to go ahead and trap this witch right here using a very realistic trap, I'd say.
Yes, they use a doll covered in little boy's clothes while a soundtrack plays saying, "Help me, help me."
With a pumpkin head.
Yes, with a good old pumpkin head.
And then got him. Oh, look at that. A record player in the 1800s.
Yes, was invented until the 1900s, but I'll let it slide. Or late 1800s, whatever. Anyway. Oh, by the way, do you remember the spiky hair witch's name?
I do not.
I don't either. So I just wrote spiky hair witch.
Good. I'm glad
Glad we're on the same page.
we got professional notes down here.
Hey, I didn't even know what Mariel's name was until the end of the movie, so I just wrote the evil witch.
Yeah, old Firecrotch.
I didn't know her name was Mia until the end of the movie. Anyway, so they start to fight her, and after a broom chase and a scuffle, they subdue her and bring her back into town where they investigate her by smacking the shit out of her with some 1812 brass knucks.
That's a good way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. To where, sorry, I don't know if I'm going to get too heady here. She is then rescued by her fellow witches, who also burn down the town, capture one more kid, and incapacitate Gretel. And also Hansel ends up in a tree somehow, which I do not remember
Yes.
what happened to him, but...
So just kind of fill in the blanks. So when they go and interrogate her, it is discovered that the witches...
Damn it, Mitch.
So it's discovered that the witches all share a mind link, and they're able to view each other's, what they're doing at that moment. So all the witches share a mind link. They discover what is happening to the spiky-haired witch, and they discover that the witches are taking kids from each month, but they're missing one more child. So with that, they know what they need to look for a kid's birthday. They find out who it is, but not before the witches start to siege the town in order to find the final kid to bring her to the ritual.
Yo, these witches hot as fuck, by the way.
Yeah, especially that one.
I hope you input pictures for that, by the way.
Oh, I will.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'll just have to remember. Anyway, so they go ahead and they say that they need one more kid. They get attacked. And then after that, they find the kid. And I'm not sure if you remember the scene, but there is a brother who is watching over the kids with a shotgun.
Yep.
And the mother. And the red hair witch, I believe, forces the son to kill the mom with the shotgun by, casting Imperio on her.
I feel like you're getting way too into the details here. I feel like what I explained of they came, they burned, they captured,
they saw, they did some shit.
and fucked up both Hansel and Gretel. Boom. End of scene. I don't want to say roll credits, but roll credits.
Well, anyway, so to fill in even more gaps. So along with the process of the witches sieging town, finding the final kid, Hansel gets into a fight with the red-haired witch where he tags along on her broom as she's escaping and falls from very high up in the air, falling into a tree.
And there you go to answer my
Earlier question.
link there.
And then also, Gretel is being attacked by Muriel, and the forest guide, whose name I still do not remember, is currently battling her with a sawed-off shotgun, but she mind controls him to blow his head off with said shotgun. And as that is happening, Gretel is in the background being carried off by Ben. So Ben is saving her life.
Correct.
And in
Project
the very next...
X Ben.
Yes, Project X Ben. And then very next scene, we see Ben, and he is copping a feel.
I tell you what, man, he's really gone downhill ever since the party.
How long ago was that movie?
Years, but last time I watched it, not that long ago.
Yep, so next scene, the sheriff blames Hansel and Gretel for the siege and makes a grab for power by killing the mayor. So he murders the mayor, and he takes control of the town. And then Gretel wakes up as Ben is copping a feel, grabbing them tits, all that. And then Gretel finds a news clipping amongst Ben's items of stalking her, which is really weird, showing that they burned a witch in town. That witch happened to be Gretel's mom.
Correct.
Yes. They don't necessarily say that out loud. However, it's heavily implied within the scene. And then afterwards, they go ahead and say, oh yeah, that was a girl that, the town got together and burned her. And they now know that the townspeople are the reason why they grew up without a mom. And then after that, the troll is shown nearby munching on a boar as Gretel is searching for Hansel, who is currently stuck up in a tree.
Who is then ambushed by the sheriff and his cronies.
Yes, and I'm going to do this out of order because it was shot really weird. But I'm going to go ahead and go through Gretel's part first, and then we'll get to Hansel. But essentially what happens is Gretel is accosted by the sheriff and his cronies, and then she is basically gets the shit kicked out of her. And I believe the sheriff goes in for a good old raping, right?
I believe he does.
Yes, so sheriff goes in for a good old raping, but then our boy, or at least my boy,
Edward,
the troll, makes
the
his
troll,
appearance,
saves the day,
murdering 5 people.
Crushes his head, or smashes his head.
Yeah, once again, it's kind of shot out of order, but we're watching it in full, and then, blah, blah, blah. But he murders a couple of people. The CGI isn't that great, but it's passable enough for 2013.
Definitely.
Yeah. But essentially, he basically crushes everybody, just murders them all, doesn't give a shit about, getting shot or anything like that. And then after that, we cut over to Hansel. So Hansel is being cared for by Mia, who has saved him from a tree and is treating his wounds next to a magic pond. Also hinting at the fact that she is still a witch, because they just fucking force that down your throat. But anyway, so they are in the pond, they're nearby the pond. She's cleaning them and says, hey, why don't you take a dip in this magic pool? By the way, I'm a witch. And he says, great, I'll hop in. And then
they engage in some beautiful coitus.
Well,
lake coitus.
Some good old lake coitus.
Yeah, which, as we're seeing, they are going.
Because it was
dressed.
Because it was shot out of order. This is them getting dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are currently getting dressed after having lake coitus or pond coitus.
Pond coitus would be the correct term.
Yes, some good old pond scum just floating around in there. That's some Hansel scum, or just Hansel cum.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yes. But then after that, we show a kind of duality of the kind of not romance, but kind of relationship status between our two main characters, because Edward is nursing Gretel back to life, or back to condition, or whatever.
Yes.
By feeding her a seashell, I guess.
A seashell of water.
Yeah, like making her drink out of a seashell of water.
Drink.
Thank you for that impression. So anyway, he forces her to drink some water, and then she says, "Why are you being nice to me?" And he says, she basically says, like, "Why are you with the witches?" And he says, "Because trolls are always with witches." So essentially what the kind of movie is trying to get at is don't judge a book by its cover. Even though there may be evil in some areas, that doesn't mean that evil prevails or exists in others. So there's good witches, there's good trolls. I dug way more in this than you did, didn't I?
Definitely. Definitely wasn't looking into a more of the story of, hey, there's good witches, there's bad witches. Hence, let's go back 20 minutes where I said all witches are bad witches.
See, look, you've learned a lesson. So, Hansel randomly finds a decrepit old house out in the woods and stumbles in, where it turns out that Gretel has been hiding, I guess, this whole time, and tackles him into the floor, where they crash through the floorboards onto a rock that should have broke Hansel's backs.
Well, yeah, but it also reveals family secrets.
Yes, it does reveal family secrets that nobody comments on for like 10 more minutes. Because essentially they crash, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad we found each other, blah, blah, blah. What is this place? Oh, I don't know. Isn't this our family home? Yeah, it looks like a witch has been here. And then like 5 minutes later, Mariel shows up and says, "Your mother was a witch." And they're like, "Oh, I never pieced this together."
Yeah, and the entire backstory is revealed.
Yes, the entire backstory that I had to explain to you.
No.
Yes.
But go on.
Where
Please.
Hansel and Gretel's mom was a great white witch who was too powerful for all the dark witches. So they were going to instead kidnap and eat Gretel's heart. But because the white witch was protecting her, the bad witch, Mariel, went ahead and told the townspeople that the white witch was there, hence by killing her in the process, because a white witch will never use her powers towards humans. And Gretel and Hansel are lost in the woods because their dad came back and got killed also somehow.
Yep, that was also hung.
Well, the mom wasn't hung; she was burned alive.
But dad was hung.
Yes.
Sorry.
But eventually, the evil witch Mariel, she goes ahead and kidnaps Gretel. I wrote G because Gretel was too hard to spell. And then Hawkeye gets stabbed in the stomach via a knife, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. And then after that, Mia, old Firecrotch, rushes in and rescues him. And then while she is rescuing him, he notices, "Oh my god, my cut is nearly healed. You're a witch," which everybody else has known forever.
Witch. You didn't notice what she did there.
No, I don't.
You said she's a witch. Witch. And then you start explaining something else.
Yes, because those two sentences are separated.
You didn't get the joke. But anyways.
No, I get the joke. It's just not funny.
Oh. Poor me. Thinking, you know what? It's 3 a.m.
Grammar is important.
But anyways, please explain this part. Because now, this is the part once again where you have more knowledge than I do.
Also, I don't write any punctuation, so I can't read this directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I do, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so the evil witch stabs Hansel. Mia finds him and goes ahead and nurses him back to health. He freaks out upon hearing that she's a witch, but she's like, "No, I've told you like 6 times. Trust me, it's fine." And then essentially she is turned out to be a good witch, just like his mom. So essentially he fell in love with his mom.
You're stretching that, but yes.
I don't think I'm stretching it too far. There we go. So she explains that some magicals are not evil, and then helps prepare via his mother's old spellbook, which was coincidentally still inside the basement, or cave structure, whatever it was. And then inside of that spellbook is a potion, I guess, that they soak their guns in.
They soak their guns in to be able to kill the witches?
Yes, I don't get that. So is the potion doing something, or is it like supercharging the guns and bullets?
That's what I believe it's for, is just to make their guns more powerful against the witches, against their magic.
Well, I guess I can just say this because I'll cut this out. Hold that fucking mic to your fucking face.
I am right now.
You go like this, you fucking piece of shit.
Please keep that in.
Okay. Anyway, so inside the Mother Spell book, they find that potion to go ahead and soak their weapons in to go after witches. And during that process, Ben also tags along as a accomplice or, somebody to go help, I guess.
Because he wants to be a witch hunter.
Yes. And then Hansel basically says, you don't really want to be a witch hunter. You kind of have to be a witch hunter.
You're born into it.
Yes. Yeah. Essentially, you get forced into it.
Which I feel like is from another movie. But anyways.
Probably. There was a callback to a couple of different movies, I'm pretty sure.
You don't want to do this. You're born into it.
Nice. Anyway, so after that, Gretel then wakes up inside of a cage, a same kind of type of bone cage. Anyway, so Edward is the guard of the bone cages, and she says, "Hey, Edward, please help me. I'm locked in this bone cage." He says, "Eh." He refuses because he's scared of what would happen to him. And then after that, Hansel sets up a saw trap in the woods. All the razor wire, remember?
Yep.
Yep, so he sets up razor wire across a bunch of trees, which are super low, and this comes into my thinking later on. The brooms can fly higher, so once the first witch flies into the razor, why do the others not fly higher?
They were all flying together in formation, so they flew into it together.
No, they didn't. So one hit the first set of razor wire, and they said, "Oh shit, let's go the other way." Went the other way and got hit by another set. So these are some dumb witches.
I'm pretty sure 3 of them flew into it together, but don't mind me.
No, 2 of them flew into one, and then 1 flew into another one.
Okay, fine. I just want to make that a point.
Yeah, I'm just making my point.
All right.
Great, so H sets up, or not H, I wrote H because Hansel was too long. Hansel sets up a saw trap in the woods and tells Ben to be a sniper and does a fold-out fucking sniper rifle.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Which is cool for the 1800s.
Oh, that's cool. Did it on screen right as I said it?
Yeah.
And then after that, it shows the blood moon and also all the gathered witches who are a cacophony of freak show attractions.
Yes.
Like there's Siamese twin witches, witch with no lower half, masked and Asian
witch.
And then after that, let's see. Here we go. So they go ahead and bring the kids out as the blood moon rises, also with Gretel upon the ritualistic kind of stage, as Mariel basically says, "All right, everybody, we're going to get our blood immunity or fire immunity today." And then after that, Hansel reveals himself, says, "Mia, wait for my signal." And she is standing behind, waiting for her signal.
Like I said before, to get to the point I was talking about, the final battle takes place where Hansel does finally reveal himself. Where, what do you call her? Old Firecrotch?
Yep, good old Firecrotch.
Or the good witch, the white witch.
Mia
reveals herself. At this point, they start mowing down all the witches.
Yes, with a fucking Gatling gun.
Yes. Which the Gatling gun did exist back then, but anyways.
Yes. Did not
so
exist
basically, they mow everyone down. All the witches try to escape. They don't. The main antagonist.
Well, the main antagonist goes to basically say spiky hair, red witch, who I think was the first one to get their head blown up. Yes, here we go. So the red hair witch, who is the bad one, not old Firecrotch, our trusty steed, goes ahead and gets her head blown off first, which is a huge shock to everybody.
Because they're like, oh.
Yes, they're like, oh my god,
shit,
bullets can hurt us.
And the Gatling gun.
Yep, and then Gatling gun goes ahead and mows everybody down. But after that, Mariel says to the spiky-haired witch to go grab the kids, because fuck it, they'll do it live.
But anyways, their attempt is foiled.
Yes, their attempt is foiled. They do end up saving everybody. Edward frees Gretel.
Yep.
And then gets flung off of the cliff to be found later.
But he is resuscitated.
That would be the to be found later parts.
Thank you.
Which I would have gotten to. So Gretel and Mariel fight, and then as the sun comes up, Hansel dispatches the remaining witches, including the Siamese witch, who kills one, and then they're still fighting, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then
he splits them in half.
Yes. And then some of them, including Mariel, escape on brooms. And then as they navigate through the forest, the wires, of which we saw earlier, take out 2 of the witches. We'll see this here. And then one of them shoots off in the other direction and also gets killed, for a total of 3 more witches killed.
Yep.
Right? And then we see Ben, our lovely trusty hero, just sitting there with a sniper, even though it somehow transitioned from night to day within the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, but the battle went on for a while.
Well, that's the thing, is when the battle ends, it just becomes day. It goes straight from blood moon to day.
Yeah.
Even though it was just night. But, I'll let that pass because it's magic. So I can't really hark on that too much. But essentially, Ben shoots Mariel out of the sky because he was the master marksman of his town's fair. That was his credentials for joining this.
Yep.
And then after that, they say, Hansel, Gretel, look, I killed the witch. They go to try to find her, but the broom has crashed. And then they resuscitate Edward somewhere along that way.
Which brings them to the beginning of the movie, their house.
Yes, it brings them back to the beginning of the movie.
Whereas, I guess, they do have the final battle against the main antagonist where...
Yep, at the old decrepit candy house.
Where she ends up getting her head chopped off.
Once again, stepping way ahead.
With a shovel.
Way
I'm stepping ahead because I'm running through the plot here.
Yes, but you're missing a big plot point. Where Mariel and Mia, good old Firecrotch, get in a fight, and Mia is mortally wounded.
That is right. She does die.
Yes, Mia dies in Hansel's arms, the sad point of the movie, because they were just getting to know each other, and they've already fucked once, and Hansel's really looking forward to some of that.
Some pond coitus.
Yes, some good old pond coitus with good old Firecrotch.
Before you interrupted me, they do kill her.
Yes, they
Chop
do
her
kill
head
her
off.
by chopping her head off, and then Ben provides some outgoing comic relief by throwing up, even though he just shot this lady.
Yes.
And then after they go ahead and finish off the witch, Hansel and Gretel return to the town and collect their reward from the townspeople. And while they do that, they end up moving on, now with 2 new friends, both Ben and Edward.
Edward.
Yes. And then as they're traveling through some sort of desert biome from Minecraft, they fucking run across a sand witch, and they kill her. And that's the end, setting up a sequel, which has been in production since 2013. Mm-hmm. So they are writing a sequel, but will we see it? The answer is probably not.
Hopefully.
I know, Jeremy Renner said that he would like to do another one, because despite the actual numbers of the, budgets, the box office, all that, it performed really well. Which,
the part I really wanted to harp on, a budget of $50 million, box office, we had $226.3 million, which they really exceeded expectations, I believe. And that brings up bad reviews. So if you would like, I would like to read some of these reviews.
Well, just to go over some of the scores. So the bad reviews of at least why we thought that was, not necessary, but a movie that we wanted to review as a movie that was given bad reviews. It had a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. I'm rounding down in that situation, but still. And the big old 15% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Correct. Which, when you're looking at a budget of $50 million and a box office that did pretty well, $226 million, I feel like this movie did pretty damn good.
Hey, you want to see something?
Yeah, what's that?
Hey. Talk into your fucking mic.
Anyways, before you really interrupted me, now that you're done throwing a tantrum, I'll go ahead and finish. So, yes, 15% Rotten Tomatoes. I threw some of these reviews. So, according to these star top critics, it's an appalling, insulting, and cynical mess from start to finish. Rating 1 out of 5 stars. It's a film which is so demeaningly bad, so utterly without merit, that there is a kind of purity in its awfulness. 1 out of 5 stars. If this long-delayed, blatantly pandering CGI malarkey is anything to go by, Hollywood's current craze for fairy tales isn't going to have a happy ending. And I guess the last one I'll go ahead and end with. There isn't much to this beyond the poorly staged, rapidly edited violence. The witches, all but devoid of backstory, are basically canvases for cartoon splatter. Now, for a good review that I would like to side with, truly one wickedly spun tale with awesome shooting and fighting scenes directed for the classic fairy tale with a modern twist. Hansel, Jeremy Renner, and Gretel, as children, were left in the forest by their father as they find out later in life, which we already went over the plot.
Yeah.
But they go ahead and talk about the plot and how basically, even though for a fairy tale, a kid's fairy tale, the spin they put on the movie was pretty good. And in my opinion, did that. It was entertaining. They really touched on the original backstory with, their own twist of how they become witch hunters.
Well, what I did after I wrote out my, plots and all that is I gave it a personal review out of 10. What did you rate yours? Or what would you rate it if you haven't done so already?
Look, honestly, I may not be some top movie critic, but I definitely would give this at least an 8 out of 10. I personally thought this was very entertaining, and I'm not the guy who's into, I guess, fairy tales and, CGI and all this stuff, but I thought, the story was good, entertaining, and I thought it was a damn good movie, which, according to the box office and budget, people thought so too, if it grossed this well,
And that was the number that I ended up on as well, is 8 out of 10. And for me, I even wrote this down, but I said, despite itself, I still enjoyed this movie. Despite everything they did to make me not like it, it was still okay. Because, the CGI, it does look outdated, but I can't really blame it. Because, anything that's around 2010's era, which this came out in 2013, right? I give a pass for CGI. Because it's super expensive still back then. Like now it's getting to the point where it's not that expensive and it's looking really nice.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the story itself, because you've read Hansel and Gretel.
Oh yeah, of course,
right? Yeah. So that story, I'm not sure if you remember the ending, but they do get back with their parents.
Yes, correct.
But in this story, they lead off of that saying their parents abandoned them in the woods. And then later on throughout the story, we see what happened to them. But basically, it's two kids at a very young age who are forced into a life of murder. Because that's essentially what they're doing, is they're going around murdering these witches.
Yes.
Who, bad or not bad, doesn't matter. But they grow up in that life and become kind of like social outcasts, recluses. Because, as they saw throughout the movie with Ben, Edward, and Mia, they didn't actively seek out that relationship. It kind of came towards them.
Yes. And
once again, just reading too far into it, but still.
Yeah, of course, which you always do. But another review I wanted to add and sided with was someone did state, I swear the critics were on some serious dope when they were judging this movie. Because this film just doesn't deserve its reviews. I honestly think this film is one of the best movies that managed to twist a kid story into an adult film. Which, like I said before...
And that's fundamentally wrong, because there's a way better story that was transferred to an adult film.
Go on.
Yes. Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, Triple X.
Boy. And on that note... I'm not going to get into that. That is a review for another time.
Oh, we get to review that? But speaking of which... There is a movie that is very like this one that I think you would really like, that I think we should review next.
And that is?
Van Helsing. Have you seen Van Helsing?
I have not.
So Van Helsing is a 2003 action movie starring Hugh Jackman.
Well, I know what Van Helsing is about. I just haven't seen it. Thank you very much.
This was for the video, but I'm not doing this for your benefits.
Oh, well, go on then.
So... Van Helsing is a 2003 action movie starring Hugh Jackman. Thank you for not interrupting me. And then, so Hugh Jackman is playing Van Helsing, titular character, who goes after Dracula inside of, I believe it's Romania or something like that. Transylvania makes more sense. But essentially, Throughout that, he gets turned into a vampire or a werewolf or something like that. There's Frankenstein. And what was supposed to happen is it was supposed to launch its own sort of creature universe. Like there was supposed to be a Frankenstein movie, a second Van Helsing movie, all of this. But because of how badly it was reviewed, they decided not to go through with it. I have something to say about that because I think that movie is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or I'm going to somehow force you to watch House of the Dead.
Which will be another time. But in the end, though, I do give this an 8 out of 10. I
Yes.
really do. An honest 8 out of 10, as in, like I said, for despite CGI, despite what it was, entertainment-wise, it was very entertaining. It really was.
Because the reason we both decided to do this is because despite what critics may say, despite what box office numbers may say, the most important thing about a movie is how much you enjoy it. Because it doesn't matter about the writing, the directing, the cinematography, whatever it is. If you don't enjoy it, then it's gonna suck. Like, for
Yes.
instance, Birdman was like a heavily featured Oscar-winning film, like that sort of thing. But that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But it wins the highest award, it grosses very highly, but not everybody's going to like it. So, of course, our views may differ from others, but for us, we feel this movie was unjustifiably, kind of shit-canned.
Not that bad.
Thank you for tying that around. I probably should have kept up on that. But essentially, that is kind of a wrap on the first episode.
Yes, it is. And I would say definitely more to come.
Yep, more to come on this front, as well as keep an eye on our channel for both product reviews. Go ahead and take it from there.
Which generally is going to be the same type of deal. Either it's going to go along with the same theme of it's not that bad, or comparing, hey, is it worth it? Which I'm assuming is another series somewhere, but with a different twist.
It's a different twist, because what some of those other series will do is they'll compare, let's say, Beats to JBL headphones.
You know what? The Is It Worth It series I'm thinking about is like dollar sushi versus like going to Japan and getting $500 sushi.
You mean like the $500 plane ticket versus $20,000 plane ticket series from BuzzFeed?
Basically.
Yes. So no, that's not what we're doing.
But
I don't think we can afford that.
But in a way, it is to see if these products do compare to the real thing.
Yep, so keep an eye out on our channel. Make sure to like and subscribe on the video because we want to grow as fast as possible. So I can make sure to do a few things on the YouTube side that I need to go ahead and apply for. But besides that, just any closing arguments, anything else you would like to go
Nothing
over?
for me. Like I said, it was not that bad.
And that is a lovely note to end off of. Great, so that'll be the end of the video, and definitely would like to thank you guys very much for coming. Go ahead and like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Facebook. And I would like for you guys to have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you enjoy the movie. Goodbye.